For 25 years, if you worked for Google, you went into a room, you said, I work for Google. People said, oh, wow, you work for Google. Now, when you do the same, people say, oh, are you okay? Are you going to make it? So for the first time, they have to reinvent themselves. For the first time in its history, it's in big trouble.
Dobar dan, dragi ljudi. Danas se nalazimo na nekoj potpuno drugačijoj lokaciji, na konferenciji Future Tense by Lursen. S nama je danas u gostima Peter Hinssen, koji je serijski poduzetnik, futurist i netko koji je proveo čak više od 15 godina radeći sa kompanijama koji su onako top class, od Googlea, Applea i tako dalje. Danas ćemo razgovarati o stvarima koje je istaknuo na predavanjima, tako da eto, ostanite s nama. Peter, thank you for coming.
No, very happy to be here.
Peter, people call you pathological optimist.
Yeah.
So I would like to know, in this really crazy world, where does your optimism come from?
I think deeply rooted, because I probably am absolutely curious. So I want to see what happens. So I'm a computer scientist by training. I'm an engineer. And I think engineers are, always curious to find out why things work. Mm-hmm. And they want to see what they can do and, how to put it back together and figure out what the future is going to be. And I've done that, throughout my career. I did startups when I was younger. Startups is also a place where you have no idea where you're going, but you're kind of curious to find out. And I think today, in this world of constant change, I more than ever feel that there's an opportunity and an absolute desire to look at the future and what it could bring for positive and for good. So I'm an optimist to the core.
Okay, so curiosity is a cure for pessimism. So even if things go bad, you are curious about how did they go bad. So
I get very upset with the amount of pessimism that is around, because every day you read a newspaper and you think, oh, the world is going to end. You see so many people putting fear into people's minds. And I think we have to stop that fear mongering. I think it's really important that we tell a positive narrative, because I think positive narratives is the only way to really feel a little bit more comfortable about uncertainty. And I think this is what we have to do, because I really believe there's a lot of potential for things to go bad, but there's even a bigger potential for things to really move in a very positive direction. So I think optimism is absolutely a necessity.
So is from that thesis, does it come your phrase or your mantra, never normal? Can you tell us in plain sentences, what does that really mean when you say be never normal?
Yeah, well, so I wrote a book, The New Normal, a long time ago. And this was about the transition from digital being special to normal. And I think that happened in the last 10 years. And then ever since I wrote that book, people said, oh, what's the new normal? What's the next new normal? And you think, oh, well, mobile or, cloud or AI. And then I started to realize it's not one. It's actually new normals, plural. It's a number of things that are happening all at the same time. And of course, my lens was always technology. I was always looking from a technological point of view, okay, what's next and what's beyond the horizon and what's really changing. And I think two things are fundamental. One is the rate of change just goes faster and faster and faster. I think, when I talked about the new normal, this was still the environment where, every 10 years there's something big, or every 20 years there's something big. Now there's something new happening every month, every week there's something new. So you see almost like a compression of things that are changing. Mm-hmm. And the second thing is, I really went beyond technology. It's not just technology, it's environmental, it's social, it's geopolitical. Everything is happening all at the same time. And to find a way to put that together, I said, well, the never normal. I think that's the logical label that you put on it. And this is the world we live in, a world of constant change, a world of constant volatility. And there's really two ways to look at it. You can say, oh, that's really terrible. Let's protect ourselves. Let's, hedge. Let's risk mitigate. Let's find ways to protect ourselves. Or you can say, let's use that. Let's leverage that. Mm-hmm. And I really believe we're in a situation that if you can weaponize uncertainty, then you are the master of the never normal.
part of this concept is non-linear thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us something more about that? And how can you actually teach someone to think differently than he thinks right now?
Well, I think the nonlinear thinking is very simple. Instead of looking straight ahead,
Okay.
can you look left and right?
Okay.
And that's something that I think if I take one company that has done that really well, it's Amazon. I remember, I'm old enough to remember when Amazon was a place where you could buy a book and a CD online. Now, Amazon is, they are a cloud provider. They're the biggest cloud provider in the world. They have 30% market share. They're a technology company. But Amazon is almost king at looking left and right, not just straight ahead. And it's something which I think companies who can master that will really benefit. I think companies who can think left and right are going to have opportunities in the never normal. The problem is we're not trained to do that. And it's interesting that you asked the question, how can you learn that? I think first we have to unlearn what we've already learned, because in our education system, we're so trained to look straight ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, you start on a path, that's your destination, that's your journey. But how are you taught in your education to look left and right? You're not. Right? If you start, I'm a computer scientist. So you start computer science, engineer, you're an engineer. But everything that is, say, biological or that is medical is outside of your field. That's left and right. But if you want to look at the future of healthcare, you're going to need engineers and doctors and chemists and pharmacists, and you need to break the silos. And I think that idea of breaking silos and looking left and right is absolutely core.
Okay, as you talked about Amazon, and you worked for pretty big companies. With pretty big companies like Apple and Google. But I would like to know, what's the one maybe mistake that even those big top companies do when it comes to innovation, maybe thinking?
Yeah, I think I'll take Google as an example.
Okay.
Because Google is 26 years old, so a relatively young company. But for the first time in its history, it's in big trouble. Because in the US, the search monopoly is, now being, there's a lawsuit. They're probably going to have to find ways to break up Google. The ad business is under scrutiny in the US. And at the same time, I think for 25 years, if you worked for Google, you went into a room, you said, I work for Google. People said, oh, wow, you work for Google. Now, when you do the same, people say, oh, are you okay? Are you going to make it? So for the first time, they have to reinvent themselves. And what is fascinating is that Google actually made the same mistake as many companies in the past. They said, oh, this is our core business, and we make a lot of money with our core business, but then we have to invent the future. And then they built Google X, which was the famous research labs that said, that is our far future. That's where they built the driverless cars, and they built the contact lenses that could, sense your glucose. And what they did is a classic mistake. They took the innovation and took it too far from their core business.
Okay.
And the result is that it polarized the company. The people who were building the core business said, those are arrogant, innovators. And the innovator said, oh, we don't be with, the hoi polloi who just does search. And what they did is they created a tension that was actually something that is the classic mistake that Xerox made in the past or Kodak made in the past. So even those big companies still have to continuously find ways to stay relevant. And that reinvention is at the very core, even for the big companies.
So they went far from customers also, Google.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They were too far removed. And that polarizes the entire organization.
Yeah. So imagine that we meet in 10 years. Let's hope we do. What will most successful companies do differently then?
So I really believe in that idea of constant reinvention. And I think many companies today, they are very good and they have learned the trick to say, oh, there is a change. You know what? This is our current situation. This is the as is. And that's where we want to be. That's the to be. And companies are very good to go from as is to be. This is how we've organized ourselves. We do projects and we do project management and milestones. And we say, oh, this is where we are. This is where we want to be. But the problem is that doesn't work anymore in a world of constant change. So how do we build companies that are designed for constant change? How do we build companies that are capable of leveraging that never normal. And I think that is, Nassim Taleb calls it anti-fragile. Even the pressure makes you stronger. I think we're going to see the rise of anti-fragile companies, companies who are built to be designed for change, companies who are actually seeing the never normal as a constant loop, not as is to be faster and faster and faster. Those companies, I think, will thrive. Those companies will really excel. And I think those companies will really make it into this never normal. So honestly, I think we're going to see a lot of those companies in the next 10 years.
And their leaders, what skills will they have? Will they have to think more like creatives, artists, more than like accountants?
Well, I think, accountants are still important. But I think the most important thing is that I think it's people who have to be able to change the company and run the company at the same time. And that is a very difficult skill. And today you have a lot of companies with brilliant leaders who know how to milk the cow. I mean, they optimize cash flow and they're brilliant. You have some super creative leaders who are brilliant at seeing the future and understanding how to innovate. But doing them at the same time, I think that's the skill that you really need. And it's that ambidextrous, capability that is going to be really crucial. And I think successful companies can do that. I mean, I take Walmart as an example. It's a company that in Europe we, of course, don't know very well, but it's the biggest retailer in the world. It's 1.7 million employees. It's just crazy when you think about it. And for me, they're an inspiration of a company that can reinvent itself. I call it a phoenix, and they're capable of running the company and changing the company at the same time. And I think those are the companies that can thrive in this never normal.
Okay, and my last question is, so if you can finish this sentence, the one mindset shift every leader needs to make right now is?
To focus on the day after tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
A pleasure.
Dragi ljudi, dolje ćete u nastavku vidjeti još epizoda koje donosimo sa Future Tense-a. Naravno, gledajte nas, lajkajte, šerajte i pretplatite se. Hvala što ste gledali.